Welcome to Movie Galaxy. The year is 1400 BC. It is a dark and stormy night. Hercules is born. His father is the king of the gods, Zeus, and his mother is just a human named Alcmene. His mother named him Hercules, meaning glory of Hera, to make Hera, queen of gods, happy. But Hera was mad and wanted to kill him. A few years later, Queen Hera sends two snakes to kill Hercules. The two snakes came out of a statue of Hera, fall down on the floor, and go towards the baby. However, Hercules, still a child, is so strong like his father that he breaks the snakes' necks easily. When Hercules grew up, the gods ordered him to do 12 labors, and if he could finish them all and still be alive, Hera would allow him to live the rest of his life in peace. He walked through a swamp to battle powerful monsters like the Lernaean Hydra, cutting off its heads one by one. He confronted the Erymanthian boar, and after battling it for some time, he defeated it with a big blow to its head using his club. The task that made him famous was slaying the Nemean lion, a creature with a skin so tough that normal weapons couldn't penetrate it. On the coast of Macedonian in northern Greece, Iolaus of Athens, who's the storyteller and Hercules' nephew, is in a tight spot. He's captured by pirates who invaded Macedonia, and now he's tied up, hanging over a sharp wooden pike just below his genitals. The leader of the pirates says Iolaus' story is all lies and begins to burn the rope, thinking he's making it all up. The leader doesn't notice Hercules standing right behind him, wearing the Nemean lion's hide on his head. Hercules proudly claims he took down the beast with his bare hands, or at least that's the story. The pirates aren't frightened, thinking their 40-strong crew gives them the upper hand. However, numbers don't matter much when it comes to Hercules. He can take on multiple opponents simultaneously in a fight. Hercules is with his companions, the seer Amphiaraus, Autolycus, Atalanta, and Tydeus. Hercules and his men charge to fight the pirates with Atalanta using her excellent skills in bow and arrow. Tydeus also battle tirelessly, while Autolycus and the seer uses their skills with knives to finish off some pirates. They swiftly defeat all the pirates, saving Iolaus from falling onto the pike. In one mighty swing of his club, Hercules finishes off the pirate leader. Later on, the group goes to a tavern to drink and celebrate their latest victory. Suddenly, a group of soldiers enters the tavern with a beautiful woman named Erginia, who immediately approaches Hercules and his men, seeking Hercules' assistance to help her father defend the kingdom of Thrace from a menacing warlord and his men. She promises a hefty reward, their weight in gold, if they succeed. Hercules and his men travel to Thrace. They meet General Cytocles, the boss of the Thracian army. He doesn't seem too pleased that Hercules is there. Also, there's Erginia's son, Arius, who really admires Hercules and knows all his stories. As they go up the stairs to go inside, Hercules recalls an event from 3 years ago. He had defeated what he thought was a hydra. Turns out it was just some guys in lizard-like helmets. King Eurystheus of Athens declared him a hero, and a big crowd cheered for him. But then, the memory takes a dark turn, showing images of Hercules' wife and kids being killed. Hercules and his men meet Lord Hercules, king of Thrace, who asks for their help against the army led by the feared warlord Rhesus. When Lord Hercules glances at Atalanta, he doubts a woman has a role in this mission. However, Atalanta quickly proves him wrong by removing 2 arrows and shooting them at the helmets of 2 soldiers, knocking them out of their hands. Hercules takes them to the dinner table. There, he tells them that it is believed that Rhesus's soldiers are centaur creatures who caused a lot of damage to his forces. He also tells Hercules he wants to win the war so he can bring peace in the land, and Hercules agrees to teach Hercules' soldiers combat skills. The next day, Hercules and his team start training the farmers-turned-soldiers. They begin by checking how well they can form a strong shield wall. But the shields are easily knocked down when Tydeus charges at them. A few hours later, Hercules meets with Hercules again. Hercules has gathered information about Rhesus from his scout, Phineus. The tyrant is planning to attack the Bessi tribe in central Thrace in 6 days. Hercules sees an opportunity to stop him there and wants to march immediately. Hercules disagrees, noting that the army needs more time to train. However, Hercules ignores his advice and insists they march the next day. That night, Arius is wandering around when he hears a growling sound. He goes to check it out and sees Tydeus, who bounces at him. The boy manages to run away and is later found by Hercules. Hercules explains that he and his friends found Tydeus as a child in Thebes after a war destroyed his village. Tydeus witnessed something so distressing that it left him deeply traumatized, and as a result, he doesn't speak and experiences his painful memories every night. Hercules then takes Ares back to his mother, who is taking care of the injured and sick people from the war. As a gift, Hercules gives Ares a tooth from the Nemean lion, which excites the boy. The next morning, Hercules leads the soldiers to the Bessi heartland, but he refuses to let Iolaus join the army, but he should instead ride with Lord Hercules. They arrive at the village to find it devastated. The area has been ravaged, with bodies, including those of children and women, scattered everywhere. They also see the heads of men mounted on spikes. As the soldiers move forward, they come across what seems to be fresh bodies. However, these turn out to be savages who set up a trap for them. Hercules orders the soldiers to raise a shield wall, and Hercules breaks the head off one of Atlanta's arrows. When a savage charges at him, he punches the attacker so hard that the savage goes flying backward, with the arrowhead stuck in his skull. The Thracians engage the savages, and Hercules and his crew fight alongside them, leaving Iolaus and Hercules guarded. Atlanta skillfully wields her bladed bow, firing arrows without even looking. Tydeus charges madly at the savages, while Autolycus uses his weapons against them. When it appears the savages are overwhelming Hercules' army, Hercules and Amphiaraus ride a chariot with blades circling around the shield wall, cutting down every last savage on sight. After the battle, the soldiers mourn their fallen comrades, and Iolaus covers Hercules' wounds discreetly so no one can see the half-god bleed. Hercules calls out Rhesus to come and fight him, but the warlord is only watching from afar. Later, Princess Erginia goes to Hercules' special tent to keep his bleeding from a battle injury hidden from everyone as if he were just a mortal person. When Erginia inquires about Hercules' family, he avoids the topic and tells her to leave. Later that night, he hears screams and finds lifeless bodies, including his wife and kids. Hercules confronts Cerberus, the three-headed dog of Hades, but it turns out to be a vision. Tydeus appears behind and pulls Hercules back to reality. In the morning, Princess Erginia approaches Hercules' teammates and urges them to reveal the truth about what happened to Hercules' family. Iolaus says they found Hercules one morning alone holding the bodies of his family, but he had no memory of what happened. They also explain that Hera caused Hercules to lose his sanity, but Erginia brushes it off as a myth. Despite that, Autolycus assures Erginia that they all have good reasons to trust Hercules. Hercules and the team enforce a rigorous training regimen for Hercules' army. They equip them with armor and weapons similar to Hercules and instruct them in the use of lance, bow and arrow, sword, and hand-to-hand combat. Eventually, they succeed in forming a strong shield wall that even Tydeus can't penetrate. Hercules guides the soldiers to Mount Astygus, where they spot figures resembling centaurs on the horizon. As they ride towards the Thracian army, they discover that they are just normal men riding horses. Rhesus, accompanied by Phineus, approaches Hercules for a conversation. It turns out that Phineus has been secretly working for the enemy. Hercules is demanded to surrender, but he adamantly refuses. Both sides prepare for battle. Hercules' army forms the shield wall and releases the flanks. Surprisingly, the first to launch an attack are Atlanta and her archers, who emerge from the forest on chariots, catching the enemy off guard just as they approach Hercules' side. Rhesus's army launches flaming arrows at the Thracians. Amphiaraus, expecting his end, stands his ground, but miraculously not a single arrow hits him. Rhesus' soldiers retreat and run away, but he decides to stay and challenge Hercules directly. Rhesus charges at Hercules on his horse, but Hercules seizes the horse, flips them both over, and mocks, freaking centaurs. Rhesus and his men are brought back to Thrace, where they face mockery and have garbage thrown at them. Hercules and his men drink and eat to celebrate their victory. Rhesus is chained up as a prisoner. Feeling pity for Rhesus, Erginia attempts to give him water, but King Hercules stops her from doing so. Observing Erginia's sympathy towards Rhesus, Hercules goes to talk to her privately and discovers that Hercules orchestrated the entire war to seize power and control over the kingdom, with Rhesus unintentionally caught up in Hercules' war. Erginia's main concern is Ares, her son's safety, as he is set to inherit the throne after Hercules. She begs Hercules to take the boy with him when he leaves Thrace, but he says no. Hercules confronts Hercules, accusing him of betrayal. Hercules dismisses Hercules, finding it amusing that mercenaries who are usually motivated by gold have developed a conscience. Codies confesses his desire for his own empire and even asks Hercules to lead his army, a proposition Hercules firmly and angrily rejects. As they reach their chariots, Hercules hands his money to Autolycus because he's determined to stay and rescue Thrace. He doesn't anticipate the team sticking with him and permits them to depart with their reward for a better life. However, Atlanta points out that their loyalty isn't based on owing him anything. They're a family. The entire team chooses to stay and fight, except for Autolycus, who calls them crazy and departs with all the gold. The group manages to stealthily return to the palace, but they are ambushed by General Cyticles and his soldiers. After forcing them to lay down their weapons, Cyticles informs Codies that he overheard Erginia plotting with Hercules to take Arius away. Codies, in response, takes the child from Erginia as she gets captured by the soldiers. Arius attempts to seek help from Hercules, surreptitiously returning the lion's tooth, but Codies forcefully pulls him back by the hair. Hercules finds himself chained in the dungeon while his friends are confined in cells. He witnesses what seems to be Cerberus only to realize they are 3 ferocious wolves. King Eurystheus enters, revealing his alliance with Codies. Shockingly, it is disclosed that Eurystheus drugged Hercules on the night of his family's murder, orchestrating the attack by the wolves. Eurystheus perceived Hercules as a threat when the people cheered his name louder than his own. To add salt to Hercules' injury, Codies orders Erginia's immediate execution right there in the dungeon. Amphiaraus urges Hercules to recall his achievements and identity, prompting Hercules to cry out. Amphiaraus asks again, "Who are you?" With a resounding declaration, shouts, "I am." Hercules breaking free from the chains, he intervenes just in time to prevent the executioner from harming Erginia. While she rushes to free the others, wolves attack Hercules. He forcefully slams one against the wall, shatters the jaw of another, and ultimately defeats the last one using the Nemean lion's tooth. When everyone, including Rhesus, is freed from the cages, the Thracian soldiers attempt to attack. A soldier shoots a spear through fire flames at Amphiaraus, who had foreseen this as his death. Standing resolute, he awaits his fate when Hercules seizes the spear and shoots it back at the soldier. Hercules then sets his sights on Eurystheus, who tries to weasel his way out by offering excuses for the tragedy that befell Hercules' family, claiming he was under Codies' control. He attempts to assert authority as a king and even offers money. However, Hercules remains unfazed by these appeals. Disregarding the excuses, Hercules seizes Eurystheus by the neck and stabs him with his own dagger, ultimately achieving the revenge he sought for his family. Suddenly, Hercules feels a whip around his neck, realizing it's Cyticles. Cyticles throws Hercules to the ground, preparing to kill him. However, Iolaus catches him off guard from behind and ends up stabbing Cyticles instead. The last battle unfolds outside the palace, with Codies and his army awaiting them. Arius is held hostage by a soldier, and Codies threatens to harm him unless Hercules surrenders. Suddenly, the soldier falls dead, struck by a knife thrown at him. It's Autolycus, who has returned to lend his assistance to his friends. Arius, now free, runs away towards his mother as the battle begins, and Tydeus steps in to shield him from arrows shot at him. Arius, safely reunited with his mother. Tydeus bravely takes on the archers, eliminating most of them but sustaining multiple arrow hits in the process. As the others topple braziers to create a wall of fire between them and Codies' army, Hercules picks up Tydeus. Sadly, Tydeus succumbs to his injuries after uttering the only word he has ever spoken, Hercules. With Codies' army charging, after most of the flames have subsided, Hercules sees only one way to halt them. Utilizing his exceptional strength, he pushes a giant statue of Hera off its base. The statue shatters into hundreds of pieces, crushing many soldiers and hitting Codies, throwing him over the edge of a cliff. With their king dead, the soldiers, one by one, begin to kneel before Hercules, chanting his name and accepting him as their new leader. The remaining members of Hercules' crew stand behind him. Amphiaraus delivers the closing lines, expressing a preference for this real tale of Hercules over the mythical one. He emphasizes that being a hero doesn't require demigod status, it simply requires believing in one's capacity to be heroic. With a touch of humor, he adds, "But what do I know? I'm supposed to be dead." Thanks for watching our recap video. See you on the next one.